All right, so thank you for joining us. This is another episode of the Janus Oasis. I'm Nola Simon, and joining me today is Todd Raphael from Eightfold AI. And Todd, I'd really love to know more about what your company actually does in the recruitment space.
Sure, thanks. Eightfold AI is a company that uses artificial intelligence to help companies manage people, hire people, so that everything that you do when you use our technology is done looking at people's skills and their potential instead of who knows who, or instead of who came from the same company or who's geographically in the same location. It breaks down every employee and every candidate, for that matter, into their skills and their potential to do a role, so that all the employment decisions pre-hire and post-hire are all done, again, based on someone's skills and their potential, reducing the bias that goes on in the workplace.
Perfect. So that's really an opportunity really to improve diversity and inclusion within a company, because you're identifying skills and abilities that somebody might have that they may not even consider.
A few people lie, but most of us are modest, right? So particularly many of the people that employers most want, say a military veteran, which everyone says they want, but then when it comes to placing that veteran in a job, a lot of employers and veterans, for that matter, are sometimes at a loss, like how to fit that person in. And part of that is because people are modest and they're doing things in the military every day that are like second nature. Or say a teacher. Teachers are able to translate really complex simply and deal with a lot of people who are distracted. And those are really valuable skills that could be used in a corporation as, say, like a product trainer. But most teachers don't have on their application, I'm able to translate complex skills simply, or have on their bio or their resume, because it's second nature to teachers. We're modest, we humans being. So I think, yeah, for a great extent, a lot of us don't really have a clear sense of even what we all know, what we all can do. And that's where the AI can infer, because it's crunched so much data, like more than 1 billion people, much of the working world. And so it can see patterns, what people succeed in what role.
Cool. And so really, it's also a way that people become visible and empower themselves, because you're not just limited to random introductions or the apocryphal water cooler moments who you happen to run into when somebody happens to take a break at the same time you do. You're visible in a way that could be really helpful in a remote or hybrid world.
Think about like the things that happen when you have a job. You take on work, like projects, you find mentors or friends, you network, you find internal jobs, external jobs, you take courses sometimes. All of those things are essentially done typically the way that you just described them. They're done by like water cooler. You hear about a job at happy hour. You know someone that came from the same company or the same college as you, and they say something like, hey, you want to work on this site launch with me or something? Or, hey, I know a little bit of Spanish, Todd, you'd be good at this. So that's how things happen. Informal, water cooler, same geographic location, that kind of thing. And AI can help change all of those things I named: courses, mentors, mentees, internal mobility, short-term projects. A lot of times companies will go out to a temp company or like one of these digital platforms like Upwork or Fiverr or one of those, and they'll go find someone, and the employee's sitting there going, wait a second, I have these skills to do that job, but my employer doesn't have any idea of it. So the AI can handle all of this because employees' skills are inferred, and employees can build profiles that showcase all of what they can do to an employer and democratize the workforce and the work being done.
Yeah. And how does the system actually work with other systems that have had that information for years? Workday platform, for example, where they've got your resume, you've updated your skills, you've updated your education, and then you think that might eventually lead you into a career path that you want to get to. How does your system help with the existing systems that are already in place?
Couple of things. One is for new hires, companies that have a system that you mentioned, Workday, companies that have these resume tracking, applicant tracking systems, they're mostly systems of record that they do well at housing resumes and housing applications and keeping track of people. But for most companies, they don't access those systems and the people in those systems over time. So companies typically say to people, we'll keep your resume on file. And while we're rejecting you now, we'll look at it in the future for future openings. But they rarely do, as employers know.
You never hear them.
That is a complete rejection. But with our system, our customers go in and they access past applicants and often find them for future jobs. We had a company I talked to about 3 months ago, which is an auto parts company, and they hooked up their applicant tracking system to the platform and found that there were 1 million people who they were basically ignoring, who they just were not able to find matches for and look at the potential of these people until they had the AI that enabled them to do that. And then going back to what you were talking about a minute ago with the current employees, what happens is every current employee builds a profile of themselves, and they indicate a role they'd like to have next in the future. And then what the AI does is show them what skills they have now and what skills are required in that next role and where there's a gap. And that's where the AI kicks in and the platform kicks in, and you find mentors, you find projects, you find new jobs, you find courses, all based on where that gap is. So if I'm working in a bank, for example, and I'm a systems administrator, and I want to be a cloud engineer, and there's some overlap between those jobs, it shows me the overlap. It also shows me where the gap is. So it says, oh, this computer language, you'd be good at picking up this second language, and you might be well advised to do so because that will help you get that cloud engineer role. So it sees
it's a really way to supercharge like a career path and really guide and coach and mentor people in a way that companies have never been able to do before.
That's right. And most of our customers are in the position where they're really forced to do that in a way. They are banks who are trying to keep up with fintechs. They're clothing companies that are trying to deliver different kind of clothing because people are working at home. They're food and restaurant companies that are having to deliver more, and healthcare companies are having to do more telehealth, and energy companies are having to do more alternative energy, and so on and so forth. And when you add that up, it's basically every company, and they're all trying to shift the type of skills they have in their workforces. And again, how do you do that? You take the existing people you have and you see where there's a gap between the skills that they have and what they need to take on these most relevant, most valuable roles. And you help them find those upskilling and reskilling opportunities, the opportunities to meet people, to find mentors, to take on projects, to take courses, and everything else they need to do to move into these new roles.
So can the system actually identify the people that would be the best mentors for that situation as well, too?
Yes, it shows you that, hey, Todd, you're interested in being let's just say, I don't know, VP of user experience. And then it will say you have these skills, and the skills that you want to add include, I don't know, let's say advanced design or something. And it will show who my company knows advanced design and pop up their profile for me, particularly if they've agreed to opt in to be a mentor.
Oh, so they have to opt in to be the mentor. Okay, cool. That makes sense. You can see me, you can see me. This is a podcast, you can only hear me, but I'm really getting super excited at this whole idea of networking, because this is really like opening the door for those informational type interviews where people can really learn from each other and really help advise and just help one another get to the next level. And that drives business results. That's really super cool.
And it also can save jobs, frankly. We had a customer who was a medical device company who was going through a reorganization, which like many companies, they do every several years. And they were able to see the skills that people have who are going to be eliminated and the skills that they needed in jobs they were hiring for at the same time. And they were able to shift some people from roles that were going to be eliminated and save those jobs and move them into open roles. And they tripled the number of people who they typically save and redeploy in a reorganization.
Wow.
We had another company I just talked to at the end of last year, 2021, who's a major discount airline. And when the pandemic hit, not surprisingly, they furloughed thousands of people. But they had this idea that they would go into food delivery and financial payments and a local delivery like Uber type stuff. But they had all these cabin crew people and like flight attendants and whatnot, but they didn't necessarily have all of these food delivery and financial payments and Uber type people. So what they did was they were able to use the platform to see who had similar skills, and they were able to redeploy a lot of people and take them off of furlough and move into these new areas. So really saving money and saving jobs in the meantime.
But that's investing in human lives.
Incredible.
Yeah, that's really a great aspect of it that I never even considered. So, in terms of fighting bias, there's been questions about how AI is developed. What does Avehold have in place to make sure that the systems that you're using, the algorithms that you're using, are free of bias?
Yeah, I think technology can definitely be used to make bias worse. I've sat through, God, hundreds of demos of products, and some of them would tell me that they try to clone your high performers, and you hire people who are like your high performers, and they often used data sets that were your high performers, but it's a limited data set. And we do a lot of things, but one of the things that we do is we have this massive data set. Instead of using one company's set of their data and try to like clone people or replicate people, we're using the skills and the potential of more than 1 billion people. So we're saying, hey, you want to hire someone, you want to promote someone, you want to find, as I said, courses or projects or mentors for someone. It's based on the skills and potential of what we learned from 1 billion plus people in their career paths, not from one company, which may exacerbate bias based on their employee population.
Right, because you tend to hire people who look like you, who you're familiar with, who fit your mentality of what success is. So,
yes, but even beyond that, you tend to hire people who have done the job before.
yeah.
So you say, we want a product trainer. You generally look for a product trainer. You don't typically look for someone who maybe was a teacher. You hire an engineer and you want someone who knows that exact computer language. That could bias women, because there are computer languages that men know and highly disproportionate to women. And there are other computer languages that's not true of. But with those other computer languages, our AI shows that you can quickly pick up the second language. So if you one language and can pick up language two within maybe a couple months or whatever it might be, then you should possibly advertise your job and include as the calibration of what is needed in that job the right criteria that doesn't bias who you bring in that pipeline. It's all about hiring for potential, hiring for skills, hiring people who can do the job, not people who've done that exact job before, not necessarily people who have the experience doing that exact thing before, although in some cases that's the case. It's people who have all the potential to do that thing.
Very cool. So the companies that you work with, the most successful companies that you work with who implement this, are these companies that are dedicated to learning and developing and working with the people that they've got? Are those the most successful companies?
Say it again.
The companies that implement your services, are these the companies that tend to be dedicated to learning and developing and wanting to work with existing people and career pathing them and upskilling them? Is that mostly the type of client that you attract?
Yeah, I think their best customers have a skills culture. They have a culture where they are really thinking about who has the skills potential to fill our roles. So we've had customers who have said to us, we don't know, we think we need 300 data scientists over the next 3 years. And we think we can fill some of those jobs from the outside. And we're able to say to them, yeah, but there are some of those jobs you can fill from the inside, because you have a lot of people in your workforce who may not have a job called data science, but they do have a skill that's very similar, in that all of our data show that people who have that skill can pick up data science pretty quickly. So again, our best customers are ones who see that linkage, who can see how to take people from roles that are very similar to the roles they need to fill and make that happen through upskilling and reskilling and everything else. And going back to what we talked about earlier with applicant tracking systems, some of our best customers are looking first at their networks. They're saying, hey, if you look at the people who applied before, if you look at the people who worked here before, if you look at the people who were referred here, employee referrals, if you look at the people who are doing contingent work for us, if you look at all of these populations, we have so many people in our network that we're not really tapping into their skills and potential. And they have all of those things to do our open roles. We just haven't really linked who has done A that makes them capable to do B. And if we make that link, yeah, there are some jobs where we'll need to go out and find someone, but most of our jobs we'll be able to fill internally, whether that's internal employees, past applicants, past employees, contingent workers, employee referrals.
Right. So you're really using the pipeline that you've got built and just bringing it to life and making the recruiter's job, whether it's external or internal, that much easier.
Yeah. And also just to go even beyond that to what's really cool is some of our best customers can take their pipelines and use the AI to send tailored messages to those people. What happens with most companies right now is they'll send out and you've probably seen these, like a monthly newsletter or something where they'll tell you about what's happening at the company and volunteer activities that employees are doing. And maybe they'll list some open jobs or link to them. But what some of our best customers are doing is they're actually tailoring their messages to people that the AI shows are the best matches to certain roles. So they'll say who's like a 5 or a 4-star match out of 5 to a given role, and maybe who's an engineer in Florida or something, for example. And they'll send out a tailored message to that group, and they get much better results with that kind of approach than with this kind of one-size-fits-all approach.
Yeah, because it's being personalized.
Yeah.
That's really cool. And just to be clear, just like ATS is not a computer rejecting people, AI isn't like a system that rejects anyone either. There's always a human component using the data that the system sends out, right?
That's right. I don't think we have any customers, and to be clear, we don't have any customers who are like eliminating the human from the equation. They're all making decisions by humans. Should we hire this person? Should we promote this person? Should we give this person a project, a short-term project? All of those decisions our customers are making by humans. Now, I would say that our customers are able to free up a lot of their time to do the stuff that recruiters have for years talked about, the human work of recruiting and HR. They've never been able to do it because they're always stuck with the administrivia, always stuck with things like interview scheduling and screening thousands of resumes they don't really spend more than a second with, getting that down to a smaller number. Like all of those activities have taken the human out of the equation, actually, because recruiters and HR have been bogged down with these kind of administrative activities. And actually our customers, interestingly enough, have become more human because they've been able to do the things they've been wanting to do for years, spend more time with candidates, spend more time with the best candidates, do market mapping where they can see what the supply of good talent is in a certain area, a country or region, things like that. Or the Discount Airline's been doing that. It's ironic, but in some cases, the technology has freed up people's time to be more human.
And it makes sense because it's a tool that's designed to really do the grunt work and then free people up to do what they're best at, which is what humans do.
Yeah.
So that makes complete sense. That's awesome. Yeah. And then when we had our brief chat earlier, you mentioned that it can actually go beyond an individual company too, and even be something that can be repurposed for like government purposes to really identify skills and abilities that exist within long-term unemployed and help people who really need help.
We're working with the country in Scandinavia. We're working with states and provinces in North America, like New York and Indiana. And we're helping them see how people can be employed and redeployed and reemployed. So take, for example, a trucking employee who's been trucking for 20 years, take a restaurant employee who's been general manager for 20 years, a hotel employee, rental car. All of these people feel like, oh, all I know is, let's say, food. They're frustrated. They think that because they have been laid off, their opportunities are limited. In many cases, they have been in the past. But what we've been working with individuals and with these states and countries and so on, is to show how people can be transferred into different kinds of careers. What you may have thought you only knew was food, rental cars, restaurants, trucking, and so on. But you actually know customer service, logistics, morale, hiring. You might know inventory, you might know budgeting, and so on. You might know time management, project management, managing people. And all of these skills can be redeployed into other jobs at a telecom company like a Verizon, or at a grocery store, or at a coffee place, or at an office environment. All of these are valuable skills. They just need to be kind of broken down into what the AI shows people can do, what people's skills are, what people's potential are. So yeah, we've been working with governments basically to help them get people back to work.
Yeah, and it's really just about like, how do you reimagine, how do you repackage what you already know, the skills that you have, and be able to apply that to something new that may not have even existed when you started your career.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. During the pandemic, I was talking a lot to this lady who was in the restaurant business, and she lost her job and she was trying to get back on her feet, but she was literally not trying to get back on her feet because it was exhausting being on your feet for so many years. So she was able to I think she eventually got in with New York State as an employer, then later with, I think it was Verizon, but she was able to just take these skills working with people and redeploy them with us annoying people who deal with telemarketers. And so she's patient and can deal with us, calling her for our customer service complaints. Yeah.
Yep. Patience is a wonderful skill. So,
yeah.
And that's the thing, you can work almost any industry.
Yeah.
So that's great.
Yeah.
So is there anything you wish people knew about what you do that we haven't talked about?
Just, I'd say, to reiterate what we just talked about, which is that technology absolutely can, oddly enough, and interestingly enough, and ironically enough, can actually bring the human back into so many of the ways that we deal with people, manage people, hire people. And so that, to me, is one of the best things about technology, is to allow people the time and the bandwidth to actually deal with other humans in a way that they haven't in so long, because they've just spent their time doing other things. So that, to me, is one of my favorite things about technology, is how it can, oddly enough, bring the human back.
Yeah, no, I think that's perfect. I think that's a great way to look at it. All right. I think we'll wrap up there, but thank you so much for joining me. It's been enlightening. And in case you wondered how we met on Twitter, follow Todd on Twitter. I will make sure that his information is in the show notes. And is there another call it that you'd like anybody to know about you?
Twitter's great. We're eightfold.ai. I'm on LinkedIn, obviously, and happy to connect with anyone.
Awesome. I will make sure that's all available for you. All right. Thank you again, Todd. It's been a pleasure.
You too.
All right.